Hi there, my name is Ron Rogers, and this presentation is titled My First Airbus Flight Evaluation. Now, I had been on the new aircraft committee since I was a second officer on the 727, and I was reluctant to get on it. I'd just come off a furlough, and yeah, I'd worked for a flight test at Boeing and in the Air Force and Cessna and stuff like that. But I just wanted to get my feet on the ground. I was a brand new guy, I'd just gotten off probation. But there was this very senior ALP individual in the structure who I had talked to on ham radio actually, and he wanted to get me involved, and he kept after it, and finally, okay. So it was kind of interesting that the chairman of the committee, a Pan Am guy, was not too impressed that United, with 6,000 pilots at the time, had sent a second officer to be on the committee. I think he almost took it as an insult. But I stayed on the committee for a very good number of years, and I rose up finally when I became captain. At that time, to be head of a national committee, you had to be captain. Of course, now captains are busy financing their second and third wives, so a lot of first officers are now doing the committee work. But I started out being on the new aircraft evaluation and certification committee, and then they were going to combine that with the airworthiness and performance committee. So I was chairman of both of them for a while, and they put it together in the aircraft development and evaluation program. And I went from, I guess, being a chairman to a director. Organizations like all their titles and stuff. But okay, I am finally in charge of the committee. Now, when I had been on the committee for many years, we didn't get to fly airplanes. The manufacturers were not interested in letting us fly the airplane. They gave us the pretty brochures, and we got the talks and the nice lunches and stuff, but we never got to fly the airplanes. And I always thought that was kind of odd, but they just weren't interested in doing that. Well, an interesting situation happened where we had an evaluation by a guy who was an ALPA pilot, but not on any of the committees. I think it was a Jetstream 41, a turboprop. And there are certain things of ALPA policy, the way we like aircraft design. It's written into the rules and stuff. You will do these certain things. 2 pilots, 3 pilots. At the time, depending on the aircraft, stuff like that. All these, little documents they had, and you're supposed to follow it. Well, there were some issues with flight attendant seating and situations. And he actually talked about the aircraft. It was published in the Airline Pilots magazine, and he talked about a lot of things as being fine that were actually against ALPA policy. And I said, first of all, we shouldn't be publishing a review about an aircraft that violates the board of directors policy. And secondly, if anybody's going to evaluate an aircraft and publish a story about it, it should be somebody on my committee. Okay, well, the ALPA magazine took that, and I got a call about a month later, and they said, basically, okay, smart aleck, you put your foot in your mouth. Airbus wants us to send a reporter to evaluate a couple of their aircraft. They're going to have a flight of the 321 and the 330, and they want a reporter. So, okay, well, I can do that. I can write well enough, So I decided, okay, throw me into that briar patch. And look at that young guy there with still dark hair and stuff. So I go on over there, and it was kind of interesting. I'm at the initial meeting, and I'm going to fly with Nick Warner, who unfortunately died a good number of years later in the 330 flight test accident. And I have I talk about that accident. That was one of the holes that after that accident they plugged. And in the article, I'm going to give a link to the article below so you can download the PDF file if you want. But I talk about how this flight test involved demonstrating a hole that had been plugged as a result of the Bangalore accident. So, okay, I show up there, and Nick looks at me because we had been in other meetings, and he goes, "You're not a reporter." And I go, "No, I'm not, but I'm playing one today." And, the nice thing about this and how it works, these companies like publicity. So if you write a magazine article and you got a distribution for us about 80,000, it goes out to all the pilots, people in industry and stuff like that, they get some free advertising. So, okay, they like that. So they'll say, yeah, send a reporter and fly. So I kind of snuck in there. Well, I had never, done this before, acted as a reporter and stuff like that, didn't know how to do it, but I thought, okay, I got a neat idea. I'm taking my little tape recorder there, and I get it out and I plop it down on the table, and I start recording the little briefing we had. And the thing on the right there is my box full of tapes on all the flight tests. I also had a setup where I'd have a little headset, and I would talk into the headset and basically verbally record all the flight test data, kind of like we did it in the past. Verbally record all the flight test data as we went around along, because I don't have the Chuck Yeager memory where I can come back and write a full test report with extreme details just from memory. That's not me, so okay, don't worry about that. But so I thought I had this real neat setup there, and I whip out my tape recorder, and everybody else on the table whips out their tape recorder. So I'm going, well, I'm at least glad I brought one here. But tape recorders like this have kind of a not the best history when you take them up in aircraft. Rusty Gideon, when he had to punch out of the A-10 when both engines flamed out due to a gun gas ingestion, as he was going up the canopy rails, up the seat rails on the ejection seat, the tape recorder was still plugged into his headset, and it jerked his neck down. He ended up breaking his neck, but he had a full recovery, and I talk about that in one of my other videos. But anyway, I digress. Sometime soon, you can send away for a t-shirt. But anyway, okay. They come out, they ply us with all the briefing stuff, and all the publicity. And Airbus really had a good idea here of the commonality of the cockpits. You could basically step into almost any different cockpit that Airbus had, and everything looked familiar. Okay, 2 engines, 4 engines, still the systems were laid out pretty well the same. So here's the briefing book on the 321. I'm not going to flip through it or anything. It's just a bunch of information about the basic design and stuff like that. And believe me, I have a ton of this. This is just a small section of my office upstairs with all the bins, and I got stuff laid all over the floor. But anyway, back to the little flight evaluation. We had a good time, go through the standard stuff of starting engines and how well everything is monitored and regulated, and you won't get a hot start and stuff like that. And we go out and we go flying. Now, it was, I think, a 1 mile visibility and 500-foot ceiling, so we took off into that, which is, not the best situation for a flight test, but we're going up to the area where we can do some maneuvers. And the Airbus has a very nice cockpit, and we looked at a lot of the handling qualities of the aircraft, and one of the things we looked at is kind of the overspeed protection. So we go up high, and I push the nose down, keeping full throttles and the nose full down, and we get up to the limiting airspeed of 350 knots, and it starts just a nice, easy pull-up to prevent you from overspeeding. And one of the things about this is the aircraft hadn't been certified yet. I flew it in September 21st of 93, and this magazine came out in 94. But it hadn't been certified, so a lot of the parts of the aircraft flight control were still being designed. And the interesting thing about it, even though you've got essentially the basic same flight control computers between all the different aircraft, you have to tweak it for each aircraft. And one of the things they have on the Airbus aircraft, supposedly, is they have a tail strike protection where you can't over-rotate and hit the tail. Well, it hadn't been fully developed in the 321, so Nick Warner told me, he says, raise the pitch to 10 degrees, hold it there, let it fly off, because you could possibly hit the tail if you get too aggressive. Okay, that's fine. So we did that. We went up. We did the high-speed thing, as I said. We did stalls. We did low-speed handling characteristics like that. And as we were going to do the alpha floor protection, that's where you slow it back, and you hold the stick back. The thrust comes in to prevent you from stalling and stuff like that. Well, because of the Bangalore accident, they threw in this little speed warning now. So it's telling you that you're getting low on energy. It goes speed, and they also have an idle indication above the engine N1 thrust indicators to tell you that you're at idle. So a couple things to give you a little more speed awareness. Now, the interesting thing I thought in Nick's comment was all future aircraft will have the speed warning, but since it isn't mandated, it won't go back to the older aircraft. And I go, yeah, you sure that's a good idea? You know, older aircraft can still crash, and if this is a good idea, I think it would be nice if Airbus just retrofitted it, you know, at their own expense as part of a software update. But I guess the bean counters want to get money for everything, so that's not the way it works. But anyway, we flew around a bit. We did the various protections, and we came back in and shot some single engine ILSs and things like that. And here is the picture of the 321 in the new livery you saw in the previous slides, the original paint scheme. And of course, the Airbus aircraft had what they called a sail out there on the end of the wingtip. They didn't call it a winglet, they called it a sail. It had a little portion going up and down, and I guess they got a little bit better and are going more with the winglet design. Of course, when I would go over and talk to the Boeing people about their design, I go, you guys don't have winglets. And they go, ha ha ha, Boeing knows how to design airplanes. We know how to design wings. We don't need winglets. Well, guess what? Guess how many Boeing aircraft you see with winglets now? But anyway, that was the start of my flight test evaluation. And once this article was published, it was funny as could be. I started getting invites from everybody to do flight evaluations on their aircraft so we could publish it. And that just opened up the floodgates. I mean, it was funny. They were now calling me and saying, hey, we'd like you to come and fly our airplane, write a flight evaluation. And we went from a committee years where we flew no aircraft, but we were the new aircraft committee, to we were flying several aircraft a year on flight evaluations and publishing the articles. In fact, I would bring magazines as kind of my calling card, where here you can read the article I wrote here. So it was the start of a very interesting time on the committee where we actually got to do a lot of good work. Anyway, thanks for watching.